This year saw the very first Model World live by Key Publishing. So me and the boy hopped on a train, went to Birmingham NEC to see what it was all about. Of course, the star of the show was making tracks. Unfortunately, there was a few gremlins in the system in the morning, so we decided to come back to this layout later. First up is Stodmarsh in O-Gauge. This was operated by the Gauge O Guild. Unfortunately, I didn't get much footage of it because I was being persuaded by the Gauge O Guild to join them, and tempted I was.
Now today the first presentation is at 10:30.
Next up is Dobson Bridge in Gauge 1. This layout is an anything goes layout, and literally anything goes, and mostly powered by its own steam. This layout is truly magnificent. It doesn't need lots and lots of scenery, it's just a magnificent layout to watch because of the engines that go around, such as this standard class 4 here, all running under their own power. I could have watched this for hours. Dobson Bridge was built around 20 years ago as the association's showcase layout. Based loosely on southern practices with island platforms, it celebrates names from G1 MRA's past and has been exhibited throughout the UK. And now for a little bit of nostalgia for the older viewer. This is I Add That in O-Gauge. It's by Andy and Wendy Miller. It's an anything goes layout and is Hornby 003 rail system. Although Hornby 003 rail was marketed as a tabletop system, the owners have decided to create a scenic version that incorporates many original accessories and is sympathetic to the original Hornby 00 designs, with some modern tweaks. This is Fareham District Model Railway Club's Fareport Wharf in O-Gauge. Ever since the railways reached the south coast, they've been instrumental in the export and import of goods. Somewhere along the south coast of England, Fareport Wharf was created. It's now the late 1950s to early 1960s. Steam is still relevant, but one of the new shunters from Southampton Docks is on a trial. Next is Providence Colliery in O-Gauge. This is the period of 1965 on the Western region, and the operating team is Theo Thomas and friends. I'm sure there's a pun there. Coal has been mined in the West Gloucestershire area, known as the Forest of Dean, since before Roman times. By 1787, there were 121 small coal mines in the forest, and by 1841, over 145,000 tonnes of coal was produced annually. Providence Colliery is based upon several collieries in the Forest of Dean in the late 1950s. It represents a drift mine, as most of the gales, coal measures, follow a shallow slope into the hillsides. You can see where the full coal tubs emerge from the mine entrance tunnel before the coal is unloaded into standard gauge British Railway wagons, marshalled below the screens building. This is Sparkout in O-Gauge. Its operating team is Norman Raven and friends, and it's nice to see some continental modelling at the show. It seems so strange that our modelling magazines have such an aversion to foreign layouts, when we really are here to appreciate the modelling and skill of the builders. And I, for one, love any layout, no matter where it's from, if it's entertaining and looks just absolutely stunning. What's the problem of where it's based? Maybe that's one for magazine publishers to decide. And whilst you're here for model railways, which I'd like to think so, it wasn't just model railways at this show. There was all sorts to see. The world of models had been brought together by Key Publishing, and I thought it was absolutely fantastic to get a taste of what other modellers do.
No, do you want me to do it?
There was remote control lorries, the remote control planes, which the boy was really into. They even had a flight simulator so you could have a practice. Absolutely great. The showcase of kit builds was incredible, from the tanks, planes to the sci-fi. The cars, so amazing. And it really did show what sort of skills you could transfer across between the hobbies. On top of that was the various workshops for kids. There was scenics, race car building, kit building. The Hornby magazine stand had layouts where kids could drive the trains. The interaction for the younger generation, I thought, was absolutely spot on. If there was anything I'd change about it, and if anyone from Key Publishing happens to be watching this video, I'd say two things. I think it would be nice to see Scalextrics there. I appreciate you don't really do it in your magazines, and the tabletop gaming, because of all the painting, the terrain building, etc. that can also be combined with the other hobbies. Apart from that, I thought it was absolutely brilliant. An excellent idea to showcase more than just model railways. But let's face it, we're here for model railways, and this is Darnell End. It's an 00 gauge layout bought by the Redditch Model Railway Club. Darnell End was conceived as a fictionist station on the Hounslow Loop in southwest London and models the final years of southern region steam and the spread of electric traction on the region. The line is on the former London and South Western Railway line out of their London Waterloo terminus, and the station is located somewhere close to where the real Brentford is. The 00 gauge layout was planned as a challenge in building an urban landscape to make a change from building layouts with green fields. All buildings are scratch built, with many based on London prototypes, which have been photographed on several field visits by club members. And now we take a brief visit to Yorkshire with Fairlie, Thorn and Son in 00 gauge. This 1950s to 1960s industrial West Yorkshire layout is operated by Joshua Hackworth and friends. The layout represents a small portion of a fictionist tar distillery set somewhere in the West Riding of Yorkshire in the late 1950s to the early 1960s. The rest of the works and the British Rail Exchange sidings are located off-scene. Traffic consists of inbound tar in square tank wagons with the refined products leaving in Class A and B tankers, loaded using the equipment in the rear right-hand corner of the layout. And now we're off to Halland in 00 gauge. It's a 1950s to 1960s period on the Midland region, and the operating team is John Gay and friends. Halland is a 4mm 00 gauge layout with a footprint of 17 foot by 1 foot 6. 12 foot is scenic and 5 foot is storage yard. It's freestanding on its own legs and has its own lighting rig. The layout is controlled with full DCC via iPods and iPads, with turnouts and signals all working from them. All the locomotives used in the layout run DCC sound. It's normally presented in its 1960s late steam and early diesel period, but the layout is set in the northern regions. It's a classic example of mainstream modelling using track work from Pico range.
That was the packet I was taking out. Expect him to go. No.
Now for something a little different. Ruston and Hornsby Sheaf Ironworks, an 00 gauge layout set in the 1950s in industrial Lincolnshire by Michael and Andrew Sharp. Ruston and Hornsby were general engineers, engine builders and locomotive and boiler manufacturers. This is a brand new layout and Model Rail Live is its debut exhibition. What's great about this layout is there's a live feed from inside the factory, as can be seen here. The layout depicts a part of the Ruston and Hornsby Sheaf Ironworks in Lincoln during the early 1940s, where the mainline railway from Lincoln brought supplies in and out. Hornby magazine brought a variety of their own layouts to the show, one being Twelvemill Bridge, a TC120 layout. This layout was great because it allowed children visiting the show to drive the trains. In fact, that HST whizzing around right now is being skillfully driven by the boy. The layout also showcased some of Hornby's upcoming TT120 products, including their brand new Class 66, which can be seen here in the GBRF livery. It looks absolutely fantastic. I really do hope Hornby are successful at this scale, because they've put so much hard work and effort into it, and it really is just the right size. In my opinion anyway. In fact, to get an idea of the size, the layout measures 10 foot by 6 foot and features a double track mainline as well as a station, goods yard, viaduct, engine shed and tunnel. You try and get all that in that footprint for 00. One of Hornby magazine's other layouts on show was Fairlie Syniad, which is a 009 layout. There didn't seem to be many 009 layouts at the show, and I'm a bit conflicted about that, because on the one half, I'm glad it means I don't have to try and pronounce things in Welsh, but on the other side, I really do love 009, and I love looking at 009 layouts, so it was a bit disappointing that there wasn't that many there. What I liked about the layouts that Hornby magazine brought along was that they demonstrated that, one, you don't have to build 00 gauge, well, essentially 009 is 00 gauge, and that you can get a layout in a small space. This one is 8 foot by 2 foot 6, and has plenty going on. There's a passing loop, station, goods yard, and a locomotive shed. Again, you try and fit all that in 00 gauge in that space, you ain't gonna do it.
So if you put it in with it's definitely
Hornby were also at the show with lots to showcase, including a demonstration layout with their HM7000 control system and their brand new Black 5 and steam generator in the Flying Scotsman. I was really quite impressed with their control system. The boy's actually having a go at driving the train here, and he's finding it a lot easier to use and work with than the current control system that we have at home. So maybe that's something to think about for the future.
How's the connection? I heard there was a few issues with the connector, so you probably have all of that when it comes to things, so it's not like it's a huge problem, but we are still investigating the issue where...
And now we move on to 82G, Bristol, Templecombe Road, an O-gauge 1960s Western Southern depot layout. Back in 2001, after almost 10 years on the exhibition circuit with the Loco Clinic, the original group decided that they needed something on which to exhibit and run their completed locomotives, set in the real environment. Being predominantly locomotive modelers, what better than a shed layout? Other than trying to think up a fictitious name for the shed, they decided it would be nice and somewhat different to stick with the shed code as its title. So the next available Western Region code was chosen and 82G was born. We move to Northbridge in 00 gauge, a present-day Western Region layout. Its operating team is the Worley Model Railway Club. Northbridge is a fictitious heritage railway loosely based on the Severn Valley Railway Bridge North Station. It is modelled in 00 gauge. Northbridge station is situated in the Dalton Valley somewhere in the English-Welsh borders at the end of a double-track heritage line. The station has excellent locomotive facilities that allows motive power to be turned on a turntable and serviced for the next duty. Dalton Valley is named in memory of one of the group's founders, John Dalton, that sadly passed away during the layout's construction. Being a heritage line allows the group the freedom to run a selection of locomotives in stock, including locomotives that have not been preserved. The layout is DCC. And there I was, thinking I got away with having to pronounce Welsh layouts, when Melin Llechi appears. Apologies. This is by the Melin Llechi group, hoping I'm saying that right, and it's a 16mm layout, set in the 1950s to the 1970s in North Wales.
37108, that's the next presentation for the Kinesis Wire.
And so we move to Scotland with Kinlochloggen, an N-gauge 1960s to the present day layout. Its region is Scottish, and its operating team is Michael Lemery and friends. The layout is based on a rural station somewhere in Scotland. The station has a passing loop and limited freight facilities. Trains frequently pass it, and the layout can be operated in the steam and BR diesel, BR blue or ScotRail eras. Kinlochloggen is operated entirely by DCC control handset, and it does not have a control panel. Construction of two baseboards, the 8-foot layout can be assembled and fully stocked in an hour and a half. Here we see a rather famous Class 28, check out its running number, you know why, pulling into the platform with a parcels working. The train stops and awaits a Class 26 on a fuel train passing in the opposite direction. We come to Allerby in O gauge. The period is 1985 to 1992, and this is the Midland region. The operating team is Steve Thompson and family. This family-owned 7mm scale layout measures 40 foot by 17 foot. It depicts a fictional part of the railway system in northern Cumbria, with a chosen era of 1985 to 1992. Arranged in a U format, it has two storage yards. A main one located to the rear of the layout, and a smaller one hidden behind the scenic siding area at the front of the layout. They are connected by a double-track main line plus a single-track branch. This branch leads to various industry concerns that are rail-linked and to other offstage parts of the network. A small refuelling point is provided, which gives us the excuse of having plenty of light engine movements with locomotives provided from modified, ready-to-run depot and helium products. The layout is designed to ensure there is always something running. All stock and scenery are weathered to provide a realistic exhibit for the enjoyment of the spectator.
We'll see what we do.
Here we see a pair of choppers, 20083 and 20164, moving into the sidings with an engineers working. Next, Class 26, 26031, in large logo rail freight grey, passes by on a light loco move. Sticking with O gauge, we come to Grindley Brook. This is a 1954 to 1964 Midland Region layout, and it's operated by the Hillington Railway Modellers. Grindley Brook is an O gauge fine scale layout based on a fictional station set on the now closed ex-LNWR line between Whitchurch and Chester in Shropshire, in the period 1954 to 1964. There wasn't a large station with a yard at Grindley Brook, as it has been modelled, just a wooden halt. However, the location was chosen because it was where the railway crossed the Llangollen Canal. The whole of the scenic area is scratch built from photographs and plans of actual LNWR buildings, signals and infrastructure, which together creates a typical LNWR station of the early 1870s, updated by the LMS and ultimately passing into the ownership of BR. Being on the boundaries of the London and Midland Western regions, all types of rolling stock can be seen between the two regions. We return to Scotland. This is Blair Atholl Towards Drumocter. This OO gauge lamp is in the period of 1980s to the 1990s and 2000s. It's obviously in the Scottish region, and the operating team is Ian and Callum Macready and friends. Blair Atholl Towards Drumocter is a scale replica of the Highland Perthshire village of Blair Atholl and the railway northwards to the Drumocter summit, built to OO gauge and set in early autumn following an overnight snowfall. The model picks up the Highland Main Line as it enters Blair Atholl under Bridge 86H, which gives local access to the golf course. From here, it heads over the ornate Lattice River Tilt Viaduct and past Blair Atholl Signal Box and level crossing. The route north was redoubled in 1978. From here to Dalwhinnie, and shortly after leaving the station, trains pass under an estate bridge adjacent to Blair Castle West Lodge, cross the River Garry and under the A9 viaduct before turning onto the northbound climb. Blair Atholl village has been modelled to the exact OS map details, with replicas of the famous Atholl Arms Hotel and Tullibardine Institute. Due to planning restrictions imposed by Atholl Estates, very little of the village has changed over the years, which allows, with a little modeller's licence, variations in the rail period operated. There seem to be an abundance of O-gauge layouts at this show. Here's another one. This is Patrick Lane Flask Terminal. It's set in the 1980s to the 1990s on the Western region. The operating team is Neil Mason of the Little Layout Company and friends. Patrick Lane is a 7mm O-gauge layout based on a small nuclear flask unloading terminal in the 1980s to 1990s, during the sector period. The layout is 16 foot by 2 foot and DCC operated. All the stock is sound fitted and weathered to a high standard using Hellion and Dapole locomotives as the basis alongside kit-built wagons. Model World Live is the layout's first exhibition and will provide lots of shunting and locomotive movements around the layout. A huge amount of detail and scenery helps to create a rural, run-down feel to the layout. While this is Patrick Lane's debut outing, it's already passed ownership to a new owner, and I do hope that it will continue to be on the exhibition circuit in the future. This layout is an example of Neil's great skill and brilliant layout building, and I had the fortunate pleasure of getting to know Neil a little more earlier in the week when he guest starred on the Model Rail Replacement podcast. His episode should be out in a few weeks' time, so keep an eye out for that. I hope you're enjoying this video, and you may not realise this, but the majority of the footage that you've seen today wasn't actually recorded by me. The boy took hold of the camera and has been doing an excellent job in my opinion. If you have liked this video, then please click the like button. It helps the channel grow, it helps other people find it, and it encourages me to make more content like this. Of course, if you really want to encourage me, then click that subscribe button. I really do appreciate it. Next is this wonderful layout of Old Elm Park. Again, it's O-gauge. This one is 1960s Western region and the operating team is Mark Pollard and friends. Old Elm models a Western region steamshed in the final years of BR Steam and offers a unique view inside a roundhouse in O-gauge alongside the busy yard outside. The inspiration for Old Elm Park came from the engine shed at Didcot and various books and photographs of Old Oak Common. The name comes from a combination of Old Oak Common and Elm Park, Reading Football Club's old ground. Basing the layout around Reading gives the opportunity to run Western, Southern and a few other visitors on inter-regional trains where locomotives would be serviced. Old Elm Park started off as a 4 foot by 4 foot inside of the roundhouse modelled as if the yard stood looking into the gloom and dark of the shed. Sound-fitting locomotives can be heard resting, just hissing and bubbling away. At last we return to making tracks, and trains are now running. What an achievement this layout is, and not only because of its sheer size, but because it is now a world record holder for the world's largest portable model railway. Although I think portable is quite a questionable word when you need 5 vans to take it around. However, I like to put my congratulations towards Pete Waterman and the Rail Nuts for this fantastic achievement and this wonderful build. Unsurprisingly, when the layout was running, it was 2 to 3 people deep, so getting near it was quite a challenge. So unfortunately, I don't have as much footage as I would have liked to have had. eye. And we come to the final layout of the video. I'd just like to point out that this wasn't all the layouts that were displayed. There were many others to see, and unfortunately we just didn't have time to get to see them all and record them all. So it wasn't favouritism, it's just how we got round. This is Newvadden Parkway. It's an N-gauge layout between 1995 to 2023 on the Western region. And this is brought to you by the Red Roof Model Railway Club. This N-gauge layout is set in the diesel era from 1995 to the present day to showcase rolling stock changes through the privatisation era. The layout is 16 feet long and features a double-track mainline with a large station, which takes inspiration from Newport in South Wales. Features from Totnes on the Great Western Main Line, as well as local branch lines in Cornwall, also bring character to the layout, while visitors will also see the busy depot, DMU servicing facility and more. The locomotives and rolling stock are drawn from ready-to-run manufacturers, including Dapol, Graham Farish and Revolution trains, to create realistic formations. I hope you've enjoyed this video, and if you have, please click the like button. If you want to see more, then click the subscribe button. If you feel like commenting, then please do so. And hopefully, I'll see you again next time. Thanks for watching. Oh, you're still here? Then why not watch another video?